was, we're on 70b, Yud Zayin base. Can we warn a person from a Kal V'chomer? Aaron, you told everyone we're on. Can we warn someone from a Kal V'chomer? Meaning for the Torah to give a person malkut, lashes, the Torah has to write that you can't do this sin. The Torah has to say you can't eat pork, you can't use a razor on your beard. The Torah doesn't write that. The Torah doesn't give you the warning. Even if you have a Kal V'chomer to teach you that law, you can't use a Kal V'chomer to create the Isur, to create the prohibition. So, meaning you can have a Kal V'chomer to teach me once there's a prohibition intact, a certain law, but to create a law that you're going to give lashes as a result of that. You want to, that the Gemara said you can't use a Kal V'chomer to create a Isur, to create a prohibition. So that's the Gemara's question.
The actual or the moral.
Right. So it's very good. There's the lashes, which is the actual punishment, and then there's the Torah telling you you're not allowed to do this thing. There's always two steps. Torah always tells us, don't mechalel Shabbat. That's the warning of the Torah. Don't mechalel. Don't bal tashchis. Don't destroy something for no reason. Right? The Torah tells us. It identifies what we can't do in life. The Torah also identifies the punishment, right? The Torah doesn't give us a punishment for doing something wrong without telling us you can't do it. If the Torah tells you can't do it. So that we'll call the lo saseh. So if you want to create a Kal V'chomer to say, I'm going to create a lo saseh through a Kal V'chomer, that we can't do. We can't create a lo saseh from a Kal V'chomer. So how could the Gemara say, how could Rabbi Shimon say earlier, what did Rabbi Shimon say earlier? Rabbi Shimon said that, let's say, Bikurim outside the walls of Jerusalem. How does he know that you can't eat Bikurim outside the walls of Jerusalem? From a Kal V'chomer? And therefore, he wants to say, so he's creating the prohibition. You can't eat, the Kohen can't eat the first fruits outside the walls of Yerushalayim through a Kal V'chomer. So how could you use a Kal V'chomer to create a prohibition? We need the pasuk to tell you you can't eat it outside Yerushalayim, because without the pasuk, we would not know. Well, you're going to tell me a Kal V'chomer if Masa Sheni you can't eat outside Yerushalayim. Certainly, Bikurim you can't eat outside Yerushalayim. You can have a Kal V'chomer today to tomorrow, but that's not good enough to create an Isur, to create a prohibition. So how can Rabbi Shimon say, I have a Kal V'chomer? Right? That's the Gemara's question. Now, even though there is an opinion that says Onshim Menadin, there is an opinion that says you could punish somebody from a Kal V'chomer, meaning if the Torah does not give us the punishment, right? Torah doesn't write a punishment, you could go ahead and learn the punishment from a Kal V'chomer. Let's say that if the Torah says you're not allowed to do something. Let's say the Torah says, I'll give you an example. The Torah says a person can't marry his sister, who was a half sister from his father or half sister from his mother. And what about if it's full sister? It's both a sister from his father and a sister from his mother. So the Torah doesn't tell us that case openly, right? So how do we know now? How do we know the punishment? Torah doesn't tell. How do we know that punishment? The Torah doesn't tell. The Torah says it's correct. A person goes with his sister, the sister of his father, or the sister of his mother. But the Torah doesn't tell us the punishment for if it's a sister, both of his father and of his mother, right? So the Torah doesn't tell us that, what the punishment is. Now, can we learn? Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Good morning. we have a discussion. If let's say the Torah says a punishment, and you can learn a kal v'chomer for something that's weaker has a certain punishment. Could you use a kal v'chomer to create a punishment, the same punishment for someone who is something is more strict? So that's a matter of dispute. The classic case we said of that would be, the Torah says if someone goes with his sister, half sister, the Torah says there's a punishment of karet for going with one's half sister, right? There's a punishment of karet, but the Torah did not write. Good morning, Jaime.
Morning, Rabbi.
Morning, good to see you.
Great to see
Welcome
you.
back.
Thank you.
We are on 17. We are on 17b.
Welcome back, Jaime.
Thank you, Mark. Good to see you.
We are on 17b in the art scroll. Let's see, what is it? B3, B2. The art scroll. It starts on the end of 17b2. The Gemara's question is: do we warn somebody from a kal v'chomer? In order to create, we have the rule of kal v'chomer. We could learn certain laws from a kal v'chomer, but the question is, kal v'chomer means if something is light, has a certain law, for something that's heavy, certainly should have that law. And the question is, the Gemara's question is, but we have a rule, to give a guy lashes, to give a guy malkut, the Torah, or any punishment, the Torah has to first identify the sin. The Torah first has to identify it first. After the Torah identifies it, then you could go ahead and then the Torah has to not only identify the sin, the Torah has to identify the punishment. So the Gemara's question, Reb Shimon seemed to use a kal v'chomer to teach the prohibition. And that's the Gemara's question. How could you use a kal v'chomer to teach a prohibition, to make a prohibition, to make like a losas say that you're going to give a guy a punishment as a result of your kal v'chomer, that you created the prohibition? What was the case of the Gemara? The case was, Reb Shimon said that if the first fruits that you bring to the Kohen's not allowed to eat those first fruits outside. How do we know he can't eat it outside Jerusalem? Those first fruits, the bikurim. So Reb Shimon said, I have a kal v'chomer. If Maaseh Sheni, the type that you bring to Jerusalem, that you eat in Jerusalem, you can't eat outside Jerusalem, even though it's not as holy as bikurim. Bikurim is only eaten by the Kohen. Maaseh Sheni is eaten by anybody. And if you cannot eat it outside Jerusalem, certainly the bikurim can't be eaten outside of Jerusalem. But so what he in essence is doing, he's using a logic of a kal v'chomer to create a prohibition that what he's gonna do as a result of that, he's gonna give the guy lashes if he eats it outside of Jerusalem. And you can't use a kal v'chomer to create a prohibition which will eventually give a guy lashes. So that's the Gemara's question. Now, the Gemara says, by the way, it could be, there is a discussion, could you use a kal v'chomer to create a punishment? That meaning once it's already, the violation is on the books, that already the violation has been established by the Torah black and white. Now, can you use a kal v'chomer to figure out the punishment? That is a matter of dispute. And the classic case that Rashi brings down is when the Torah writes about a person that goes with his half-sister, he sleeps with his half-sister, either from his father or from his mother. The Torah says there's karet, very serious punishment for such a sin. But the Torah doesn't write the punishment if it's a full sister, if it's both the sister from his father and his mother. So there's an opinion in the Gemara that says, how do we know if the punishment is karet for his full sister? Kal v'chomer. If a half sister gets karet, so a whole sister for sure at least will give him karet. It's a much stronger, should be a stronger sin. But that's only regarding the punishment. But we can learn the punishment of the full sister from the punishment of a half sister, but to create a prohibition that we don't learn from a Kavachomer. So that's the Gemara's question of Rabbi Shimon. The Gemara's question of Shimon is, how could you, Rabbi Shimon, use a Kavachomer to create a prohibition? You know, the Torah has 365 prohibitions in the Torah. Lo says, where the Torah says don't do. You cannot create a 300, an extra one, even though it's a Kal V'chomer, which is a biblical concept, meaning a Kal V'chomer is not a rabbinic law. Kal V'chomer is one of the ways the Torah operates. There's certain rules how the Torah operates. The Torah operates, meaning on a Torah level, with Kal V'chomer. But we can't apply the concept of Kal V'chomer to say that there's another prohibition in the Torah that's not written black and white. That's the Gemara's question.
So there is no lo ta'aseh for sleeping with a sister, but there is one for a half sister?
There is, when it talks about the punishment, openly in the pasuk, the punishment talks about sleeping with a half sister, but when it talks about does not talk about the punishment of sleeping with a full sister. We also have to look at the verse. We have to look at the pasuk regarding even the warning of going with a sister. It might also, there might be extra words in the pasuk. I think we had that maybe the Gemara learns from an extra word that maybe that it alludes to this full sister. It could be that it's open in the pasuk. It might only openly in a very full fashion of the pasuk. We could look at the pasuk in Achrei Mot. If you want to get the Chumash in Achrei Mot Kedoshim, that's where the psukim are listed, where the Torah talks about the half sister. And I presume why the Torah has to. It's in that closet over there. Outside, Mr. Safdie, outside to the right. Because it could be that the Torah, now right to your left. Oh yeah, it could be that the Torah wants to emphasize it because the person might think, or maybe we need more chizuk. A person might think if it's a half sister, he might tell himself it's only a half sister, right? So maybe that's why perhaps the Torah wants to emphasize the case of a half sister, even though here in Achrei Mot, when the Torah talks about all the different arayot, all the different women that a person can't go. So the pasuk says, "Ervat achotcha." This is in chapter 18, verse 9. There's the nakedness of one's sister, the daughter of one's father, or the daughter of one's mother. That's how the pasuk is talking about. So the Torah doesn't here openly write full sister. So now that's referring to the warning. And when it comes to the punishment, the Torah, because one parasha focuses on
but Rabbi, you said that you can't make a kava homer on a violation.
Correct.
So if it tells me that I'm not allowed to sleep with a half sister, isn't it a kava homer to say that surely you can't sleep with your full sister? Forget the punishment. Right, exactly. Forget the punishment for a minute. We get that the punishment you can do a kava homer, but it sounds like what you just read. Clearly, it's not saying the violation. Right. You're making kava homer on the violation, on the thing that's not allowed.
Right. So obviously, they're very good. So Mark is pointing out, it seems that the story of the half sister, both when it comes to the prohibition and both when it comes to the punishment, it's written both only about a half sister. So we have to look at the Gemaras, how they know what's the source for a full sister. So they have to come up with some sort of source. Has to be black and in the black and white, meaning there's going to be maybe an extra word that they're gonna learn from, or there's going to be some sort of teaching to teach us a full sister. not through Kal V'chomer. Some other, what did it say? Achotcha here, so. Right, maybe it said your sister extra, right, right. The Gemara says there's extra we're gonna see from black and white, not from a Kal V'chomer. But regarding the punishment, that's also a matter of discussion. Can you learn a punishment from a Kal V'chomer? You hear that, Nathan? If the Torah says we can't do something, and then the Torah now the question is now what about the punishment for such a violation? Can you use a Kal V'chomer to figure out the punishment? So that's a matter of dispute. Meaning once it's already on the books, the violation was already written. Good morning, Simon. It was written in the Torah what you can't do. Now you want to know, can you use Kal V'chomer to figure out the punishment? So some say you can use Kal V'chomer, and some say no, you have to have some other source, more black and white source, not just Kal V'chomer source. Right, but the Gemara's question. Right. The problem is Reb Shimon. The problem is Reb Shimon is learning the prohibition, the isur, from a Kal V'chomer. Reb Shimon went on record and he said that if a person eats, let's say, the first fruits outside of Jerusalem, how does he know that that you're not allowed to eat the first fruits out of Jerusalem? He says, I have a Kal V'chomer. And that's what the Gemara is jumping on. The Gemara is jumping on Reb Shimon is how could you use a Kal V'chomer? You have great logic. We're not going to use logic to create a biblical prohibition on something. Maybe you can use the logic of Kal V'chomer to create a punishment that's already, the violation was already on the books. But to create the initial violation through a Kal V'chomer, that the Gemara says we can't do. So that's the Gemara's question. Is that clear? So what does the Gemara say? That's what the Gemara says. On 17b. 17b at the end of Article 2. Can you warn a person? Could you create a violation from a Kal V'chomer? Even the opinion that says you could punish from a Kal V'chomer, you can't warn. Meaning, even if you hold you could punish from a Kal V'chomer, like the case of this half sister, but you can't warn from a Kal V'chomer. So the Gemara answers the following: Isura ba'alma. I agree. We're going to call something in between. I could learn a prohibition from a Kal V'chomer, but I can't go further than that. Meaning to say, if the whole prohibition was learned from a Kal V'chomer, I can never punish the person. The court can't punish the person from the Kal V'chomer. Meaning to say, the court, it stops there. I could say if this is prohibited, this is lightweight champion, the heavyweight champion is definitely prohibited. If this sin is a lighter sin, I could definitely learn the strongest sin. Let's say the case of, if we use the half sister as the case. If the Torah would tell us you can't sleep with your half sister, we would learn for sure you can't sleep with your whole sister. But we cannot learn, but we would not be able to learn, therefore there'll be a punishment for that. That we could give a punishment as a result of a violation that we learned from a Kal V'chomer. So but we could learn that it's forbidden, but we can't, but it would stop there.
So, you're saying only in that case it's not. Because you could surely learn a punishment, Kal V'chomer.
That's also a question. The Gemara says that's a matter of dispute. Whether you can punish you, whether you can Kal V'chomer is a matter of dispute. Yes.
You say if you use the Kal V'chomer to learn the prohibition, then surely you can't use it also for the punishment, or regardless, you can't use it. Because first you're saying you can't use it for the prohibition, now you're saying, okay, if you use it for the prohibition, you can't use it for the punishment.
Right. We're
You
saying,
understand my question?
yes, now we're saying like this. We're saying a Kal V'chomer could teach us that something is forbidden. It could teach us a greater prohibition. But usually when we have a prohibition comes with it ramifications. Usually a prohibition comes with it a punishment. When it fits a certain style prohibition, a do not has an action, carries with it a punishment. Let's say lashes, this type of, generally it's lashes. So comes the Gemara and says, now, I'm gonna disagree with what I said before, the Gemara is saying. I could use the Kal V'chomer to create a prohibition, which was what I said before I said I couldn't do. But I am limiting that power. I am saying that when I use a Kal V'chomer to create a prohibition, that prohibition will not be subject to lashes. That prohibition I cannot be subject to a punishment by the court.
So when you say, God, for someone speaking,
I mean, according to this,
according to this, you know the punishment, but got it.
if some
Someone speaking, punishment is got it.
correct, yes, half sister is correct.
The full sister, there's no punishment.
Well, wait a second. See, the half sister, if like we said, there are more details, but if we're gonna create the case, we're gonna use
Let's say
it.
they don't
Have that extra word. Let's say they wouldn't have the extra word. Correct. So let's say the Torah tells us the warning by a half sister. The Torah tells us the punishment by a half sister. Two different. So now let's focus on the warning case. The Torah says there's a warning you can't sleep with your half sister. Torah doesn't tell us, let's say, a warning you can't sleep with your whole sister. So now, what will I be able to learn out from a Kal V'chomer? You can't sleep with your whole sister.
But not the punishment.
But not the punishment. Now, because since the whole warning was learned from a Kal V'chomer, it's not, there's no punishment for no punishment from the court for such a violation that was not written black and white in the Torah. For the court down here to give a guy a whipping has to be written black and white. I don't care if it's logical. I don't care if it's a Kal V'chomer, and I don't care that it's forbidden because of the Kal V'chomer. But we, the court, can't. We the court can't go ahead and what? Do anything down here to such a person. We're limited. The court upstairs will deal with the person. That is what the Gemara is saying. Morning, Aaron. Nathan, is clear? That's what the Gemara is saying. So the Gemara answers, Isura Ba'alma. We're learning out an Isura Ba'alma. When Reb Shimon says there is, we could learn a Kal V'chomer to teach us, let's say you can't eat the Bikurim outside Yerushalayim and other big Kal V'chomers, and many Kal V'chomers over there, that Kal V'chomer was going to teach us that the item is forbidden. You can't do that thing. But he never meant to say, he never meant Makkos. That's what the Gemara is saying now. He meant to say there is a prohibition. Meaning to say, he says, I don't need the pasuk to tell me, like what was his case? He says, I don't need the Torah to tell me you can't eat the Bikurim outside Yerushalayim. I would know you can't eat the Bikurim outside Yerushalayim from a Kal V'chomer from Maaseh Sheni. So why does the Torah tell me about Bikurim for not eating it? It's referring to not eating the first fruits before the person says the psukim of thanks that accompany the first fruits. You have to give a thank you letter. You have to give a greeting card. Yeah, proper. You have to give a card with the Bikurim. You have to say verses. You have to say something. If he goes ahead and he eats if he eats it without the psukim, without saying the psukim, then he gets lashes. That's what the pasuk is telling us. Because we don't need the pasuk to tell me that you can't eat it outside Yerushalayim. That we know from a Kal V'chomer. So to that, the Gemara shoots back.
He agrees. He's not saying
That's what the Gemara is saying. He's not, Reb Shimon is not saying, the Gemara until now thought that Reb Shimon was saying, based on the Kavachoma, he was going all the way. The Kavachoma teaches us the prohibition and the lashes. And now the Gemara stops him and says, he only meant halfway. The Kavachoma tells us the prohibition. The Kavachoma does not tell us the punishment. Well, it's true. We said that it's true. We said that there are opinions that say you can make a kavachom on the punishment, but not on the prohibition. Correct. And then the Gemara now switches it and says you can make the kavachomer on the prohibition, but that prohibition, that when you make a kavachomer on the prohibition, it stops there. You can't take. There's no ramifications more than that. Now, so now the. So look, it would mean, according to this, it would mean Hashem will punish the guy. Doesn't mean that he will get lashes. The guy is subject to punishment, but not that he will get lashes from the court.
If he eats it before he says the Pesukim, he holds.
So now we're saying he's not going to get lashes. Look, he's only there only would be a warning. He would be forbidden for him to go ahead and eat the bikurim outside the. The Gemara is going to ask that. Stay tuned. That's what the Gemara is going to ask. So look at the Gemara's next question. Amar Rava. So Rava said, "Zara she'achal min ha'olah lifnei zrika." You see the Gemara, 3 lines from the bottom on 17b. Zara she'achal min ha'olah lifnei zrika chutz l'choma. Someone who was a non-kohen. He ate from the olah before zrika, before the sprinkling of the blood. Now, the law is by an olah. An olah is an offering that's supposed to go all the way to the Shemayim, meaning to say totally consumed on the Mizbeach. Nobody is supposed to eat. Now, nobody is supposed to eat this korban olah. Okay? Nobody's supposed to eat the olah. So now, how many prohibitions are happening here by this non-Kohen eating from the olah? And not only that, he ate it before the sprinkling of the blood, meaning usually you have to go ahead and sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach, on the altar, for a korban that you're able to eat, right? One of the key elements is you sprinkle the blood on the altar. So here many things happened that were inappropriate. It was before sprinkling. It was outside the Choma, outside of Yerushalayim. It was an olah that should not be eaten. So there's many violations. So Rav Shimon Lokeh Chomesh. Rav Shimon, it says Lokeh Chomesh. You hear the language? He gets sounds like Lokeh. He gets lashes. That there's 5 lashes because 5 violations took place when he went and he ate this korban outside when he ate the korban olah. So if you look at the Rashi, Rashi says, one Rashi says eating outside the wall before sprinkling the blood. He's not a Kohen. Right. But he's not a Kohen. It's another one. And also because he ate outside the courtyard, because a Kodesh Kodashim, holy stuff, has to be inside the courtyard. And one, because he ate an olah. So there's 5, Rashi says there's 5, the Gemara says there are 5 different sins. What do you say? What do you mean they're redundant? There's many different sins that he's doing. Right. But I'm doing one act. I'm violating many different.
So I'm not a Kohen, and you're not Kohen, neither were equal. It's the same, it's just not equal. That's all you said. If you want to Kohen,
You're saying-
well, because if I'm a Kohen or not a Kohen, I can't.
Right.
Hold on.
Right. But
What's the
there's,
difference?
yeah, but
Eating it at all is prohibited, so if I'm blonde, red hair.
right, but the question is how many verses in the Torah
But
are being. Say it again? No, it's not applying to Kohen is allowed. Just applying as an extra violation for a non-Kohen. The Kohen will not have this extra meaning a Kohen will have 4 out of the 5. 4 out of the 5. So the Gemara answers, good morning, Dr. Right. I went against 4. I went against 4 psukim in the Torah, and he went against 5 verses in the Torah. But just one act. More than that. So the Gemara answers, Chamisha Isurim Have. The Gemara says there are 5 Isurim. So what does the Gemara say? It's not the way we thought before. Don't understand, take it literally 5 lashes. There are 5 sets of lashes for the person. There's not 5 sets of lashes for the person. What does it mean? There are 5 isurim, 5 violations that are be done in one act. So that's what the Gemara says. So the Gemara, so he's only going to get, so here, it depends if the only lashes he would get if it's something that's learned out, that's written clearly in the Torah. If it's from a Kal V'chomer, he will not get anything that would be part from a Kal V'chomer. Any of those prohibitions that would be from a Kal V'chomer will not be subject to lashes. Meaning to say, if the Torah doesn't write openly this prohibition by this person, he will, and you only know it from a Kal V'chomer, there won't be lashes for that part. So the Gemara asks, V'hanan Tanan, Elohein Halokin. It says in the Mishnah, these are the ones that get Malkut. Now the next piece of the Gemara, I want to hold this piece of Gemara for a moment. I want to get back to the next couple lines in the Gemara and look at the Gemara, skip a little bit to the Gemara on Yudchet Amud Aleph. You have this on 4 lines from the top. You have the 4 lines from the top, Gufa. You see the Gemara? It's on the art scroll. It's going to be focusing on on the comment that we just said. Gufa, on the art scroll is 18a1. You have it? On the right bottom? You have it in the Gemara, it's Gufa, 5 lines from the top. Everybody has a Gufa? Gufa, Omar Rava. Rava said, it's a quote on what we just said a moment ago. Zar she'achal min ha'olah lifnei zrika. We just quoted Rava. Rava said if a Zar, a non-Kohen, eats from a korban olah before the sprinkling of the blood, and he ate it chutz l'choma, he ate it outside the wall. L'Rabbi Shimon lo kechamesh. According to Rabbi Shimon, he gets 5 sets of, it's 5 lo kechamesh, 5 sets of lashes, or 5 isurim, where we're up to in the Gemara with 5 prohibitions. There are 5 violations happening because he's a non-Kohen, he ate from it. It's an olah that can't be. Remember that we were in the Gemara, we said it's either 5 lashes, 5 violations, 5 sets of lashes, or he means 5 isurim, 5 violations. We're not clear yet with that. We left at the Gemara, there was 5 violations. That's how we left the Gemara. He says there's 5 violations that happen as a result of, if you're a non-Kohen, you eat from the korban olah, you ate outside the wall of Jerusalem. Okay, so everything plays a part, not just outside the courtyard, outside the wall of Jerusalem. So there's 5 violations. So the Gemara asks, why only 5? Why are you so lenient of the guy? Why not 6? I have found another pasuk in the Torah that he should be in violation. V'lilki nami mishum v'zor lo yochal ki kodesh. The pasuk says that a non-Kohen can't eat a certain type of food that was kodesh kadoshim, something that was holy, and that should teach us that if you're not a Kohen, you can't eat holy foods, kodesh kadoshim. There's an additional violation, being an olah is kodesh kadoshim, an animal that's the korban that goes completely on the mizbeach is kodesh kadoshim, it's holy. So the pasuk says a zar. If we have another pasuk that says a non-Kohen cannot eat kodesh kadoshim, we know the law is the only one who could eat kodesh kadoshim. It should be 6. The only one who can eat kodesh kadoshim. Let's say a korban chatat, a sin offering. It's called kodesh kadoshim. Who eats it? A Kohen. A Kohen eats it, not Israel. So the question is, an olah. Okay, again, the Gemara's question is, should there be a? Oh, very good. So Mark said, good. It's true, Noah can eat it. Very good, Mark. No one can eat it, but the fact that Noah can eat it, does that mean that when the Torah said a non-Kohen can't eat holy foods, does that mean this prohibition doesn't apply to this? Or is there an additional prohibition? Nobody can eat this food because it's an olah. But maybe there's another prohibition. The Gemara's question, and you're right. But maybe there's another prohibition for the non-Kohen. You're right, Mark. The Kohen has his prohibition. He can't eat the olah. The Kohen can't eat the olah, even though you're a Kohen and you're a priest, and generally as a priest, you have a right to eat an olah, sorry, chatat, a kodesh kadoshim, you eat a chatat, asham, but this korban, you're not allowed to. Why can't he eat it? Because it's an olah. That's a prohibition for Kohen. Now the question is there already an additional prohibition for a non-Kohen? From which angle? We the judge is reading him all the violations that you violated. You went 100 miles an hour in a school zone and in this zone, and it was raining and whatever. He throws everything, puts everything on you. How many things you did wrong on that act of going 100 miles an hour? How many tickets could he give you? How many things did you violate? Right? You had no seatbelt on. Many different violations for one act. So now the question is, can we throw on him this? You know what? You were also a non-Kohen. Good to see you, Jaime. You were also a non-Kohen. So not only did you eat an olah that was not allowed to be eaten, this animal is supposed to be totally consumed on the mizbeach, but what are you the non-Kohen eating this? When you have a general prohibition, you can't eat any food that's holy food. Even if it was not an olah, even if it was something that was not totally consumed on the altar. So can we throw in and write a ticket for him? Can we write a ticket, right, Dr. Navid? Could the police officer, could we give him a ticket and say, you know what, there's another violation for you, Mr. Yisrael, because you have no right to eat from any holy korban, holy korban. You can eat light holiness, but holy is only for the Kohen to eat. What did you say? Maybe said what? But we have another pasuk for a non-Kohen. That's what the Gemara is saying. We found another pasuk from this pasuk. That pasuk that we had was with a different pasuk. Here we have a new pasuk the Gemara found. So to that the Gemara says what Mark started saying before, but the Gemara is saying like this: Hani mili heichid lekam chazi. When the Torah says, good morning, Torah says a non-Kohen can't eat this korban. The Torah is telling you the korban that a Kohen could eat. This korban that a Kohen could eat, I don't want the non-Kohen to eat, but the non-Kohen can eat it. You can't eat it, but someone else could eat it. So this specific pasuk is telling us, it's talking about a food item that could be eaten by a Kohen that the Torah is telling you, but you, the non-Kohen, can't eat it. So this pasuk is not talking about an item that can't be eaten by anybody. So when the Torah says a non-Kohen can't eat it, what does it imply? The non-Kohen can't eat this item. A Kohen could eat the item. So therefore, that pasuk is not referring to an olah, because an olah can't be eaten by anybody. So the context of this violation, therefore, is back to 5. You can't apply this verse that says non-Kohen can't eat holy to olah, because the olah, being that it can't be eaten by anybody, therefore it's not, that's what this violation is not referring to, that type of food. Is that clear? I want to wish everyone a great day. Thank you all for coming. Beautiful crowd, everybody. And we should have a very good davening and easy fast to everybody as well. Not the Yisrael. No, only Shlamim. We put it over here, like on the bottom here. Morning. Okay. No problem. We have 6:45 every Monday through Friday. Of course, where you from? Oh, wow. Every Monday through Friday, anytime you come, we'll take you.
Yeah, I came also to the.
Right upstairs, straight upstairs.
How are you?
Good morning. Good.